it than what meets the eyes, right? And so then I had to sit there and I had to really get into it. And back 30 years ago, if you think about the equipment that we had and the software that we had, it was pretty antique and it was pretty involved. And so from that point, I had to learn how to do the software. I learned how to do all the digitizing. And then from there, I found my niche market, which is always the most important thing to do in the embroidery world. And once I found my niche market, then it just started to take off pretty much by word of mouth is how it was. I mean, you're thinking about 30 years ago, there was there wasn't that many embroidery machines out there. And so from that point on, I started just, like I said, word of mouth. And then I found my niche market. And fortunately, I had three boys who were in sports. And so that brought in a whole bunch of avenues for money because, I mean, all the sports leagues has to have embroidery. And then through there, you met a lot of construction workers, the fathers who had it just started to evolve and was a very nice, lucrative business. So, yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and so when you first got started, what was the first machine that you had?
I had a Toyota. It was an 830 15 needle Toyota machine.
Nice.
And yeah, and then I got two. I had ended up getting an 830 and two 850s. And then I also developed from there. I became a Big Brother fan. So then I started getting the Brother machines. And then I had a PR 600, a PR 650, and now I have a PR 1000. So
What was
just
your
kind of
first, like when you started getting orders initially, what
uh
were your first orders like, or what were those first jobs like when you were starting out?
Okay, they were sports for my boys that were in the sports teams. So we started off with it started off as a soccer team. And so then we were doing like the names on the names on the shorts and all that stuff. And then where I live, we have a huge marriage venue, a wedding venue. And so then I started doing the monograms and all the stuff for the wedding people. Um, and so then that started taking off. And now where I live in Snohomish, there's a big winery area, and so they have a whole bunch of wedding venues now. So it's a lot of embroidery comes with the wedding ceremonies, especially with the bride and the bridesmaids and stuff like that. So, and then also I do a lot of hats for the construction companies because, well, if you face it, every business has to they like hats, right? And especially with the construction industry, they have a lot of hat embroidery. I've done quite a bit of restaurants, and so they have their logos on the aprons and the hats. It kind of evolves.
So like
Just
with
kind of gets.
construction, like sports is kind of like an organization. Would you say like a lot of those sports teams were just kind of like local teams, or were they?
Oh yeah, they were all local teams, because I mean, once the problem with that is, as you know, is copyright, and so I didn't want to deal with the copyright issues. And the meaning is that if you are having to go the bigger teams, then you have to spend a lot of money to get the copyright, and it doesn't work out very well. So I do all the local teams around here. I mean, I didn't have to. My business was so lucrative that I didn't have to go outside to look, to pay for a logo. So does
Okay.
that make sense? Okay, does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, you didn't have to get like licensing agreements for more
No, no.
local
Yeah,
teams.
because once you have to, if there is a licensing issue, then you have to pay some pretty big money for that one. And I mean, I was all locals and it was all restaurants or it was all privately owned businesses. So, I mean, it worked out really nice. And so that was nice to do it that way.
Okay. That's great. And I mean, so you got, it looks like from the description, like you got involved, like your husband was involved in the business, like your family was involved in the business. And what did they do to help you when you were getting started?
Oh, well, doing an embroidery, when you have an order for like 200 shirts, there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of, you're sitting there and you're hooping them and you're you're doing all this stuff. You're doing the paperwork. You're doing, everything. So yeah, my family got involved, and then I mean that they made money helping me out, which was kind of nice. And I mean, we have been in an area. It was a small town, so we kind of grew with the town. And like I said, I had three boys who were in sports, so that helped quite a bit. And then I was very active in the community. So again, I found my niche market. Once you find your niche market, there, it's doors seem to open up for you. And one thing leads to the next, and then like I said, then you have all the parents who are getting involved. Sometimes, like now it depends on where you're at with your kids, or with the family, because there is a lot of home embroiderers out there. I helped quite a few of the home embroiderers out here. In fact, like when I was working for Quality Sewing, I did every 2 weeks I did a class on the multi-needle and business preparation. And so with marketing, I know you wanted to talk about marketing too, but there's so much more to it than just marketing. Is you got to be really careful that you have all your ducks in a row before you do your first embroidery, your business embroidery.
Before you take like your first before you go out looking for like a big order.
Yeah, well, definitely before you take a big order. Like I can just tell you a little scenario what happened to somebody, and it just happened to her. She got the machines. She was going to go ahead, and she had visions of grandeur of doing a big order. So she got her big order, and she had like 100 jackets that she brought in. Unfortunately for her, she did not know the digitizing process, nor did she know how to stabilize it. I mean, that's another issue that you need to think about, right? But her biggest issue is that she didn't have a contract in place. So this order that she thought was going to be very lucrative cost her a fortune because she did not have the proper documentation in place. And that's like one of the biggest things I talk to everybody about is make sure that when you've taken an order, you have, you have them sign off on it. You make sure that whatever item they bring to you, and you're the digitizing, you make sure that they're happy with the design when you sew it out. And then when you sew, you have placement, you get okayed, you have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted before you do an embroidery design for them. Because otherwise what happens is if it's not all in place, when you go to deliver it, if there's something wrong with it, you're going to pay the price, and it cost her a lot of money. It was a very, very, cost her a ton of money. And I was, she was a little person and she thought she could do the job. And yeah, it was just bad. But so, I mean, we can talk about contracts and, your proper paper. There's a whole bunch of forms that are out on the website that you might want to look into, or maybe Chris, maybe you could develop one for your group.
So basically, once the estimation form is like ready to go, and they sign off on it, they see the proof, or they get the proof of the embroidery design.
Yeah.
And then sign off on it. They got to, if there's changes that need to be made, they need to sign off on that too with like a new estimate.
Yeah, it's like a change order, I mean, if there's a, if they look at it and they think, okay, so you do it, you actually do the sample. So say if you're doing like a jacket for a gym team, right? And it's on that spandex, and you do the embroidery and everything else. They have to make sure that they sign off on it. Okay, that's the number one thing, is you want to make sure that they sign off on it before you start any embroidery. That's extremely important. And also, like another thing that another customer learned is, or one of my clients, she learned from it, is that never take anybody's items. If they come to you and they want you to embroider something on their items, that is such a bad way to start. Because yeah, I mean, it's, first of all, you should have there's a couple wholesale houses, and does everybody know where the wholesale houses are and stuff like that?
People have been talking about it on the forum. Like, I know people are sharing. Somebody asked that very exact question in one of the comment threads. They said, "Hey, who's a wholesaler where I can get caps from?" And I think they actually they were buying them from Amazon, or they were buying their blank caps from Amazon?
Yeah, no, you don't want to do that.
No,
There's a lot of good ones out there. Sanmar is probably the best one out there. Okay.
highly recommend.
Uh, what's nice about Sanmar, okay, so let me just talk about the wholesale places. Okay, so Sanmar is good. I mean, what's nice about them, well, you have to have a $200 order to get free shipping. And the problem that I ran into, and a lot of other people run into with Sanmar, is that if you are below $200, the shipping is going to kill you. The
Yeah.
shipping is absolutely going to kill you, right? Now, there's another company that's pretty popular, and their turnaround time is really good, and they have wholesale pricing, okay, which is really nice. It's Jiffy Shirts.
Huh.
Jiffy Shirts has all these name brands, okay, and what's nice about them is it's a $50 minimum order, okay. If you spend $50, you get free shipping. That I think is huge, and the turnaround time is like 48 hours, okay.
Interesting.
So that's really nice, and of course, the more you buy, the better the discounts and everything else. Jiffy Shirts they're popping up all over the place. They got great turnaround. They have all the different manufacturers. So I actually use Jiffy Shirts a lot more than Samar, because I said that if you want to get hats and you want to only order 20 hats, right, and you're not hitting the $200 minimum, you're going to pay just the same amount to do the shipping. So there goes your profit, right?
Right.
Kind of depends on that. So yeah, you pull it up. Jiffy Shirts. If you look at the price point, I mean, they're great. Seriously, they have all kinds of different items there, as you can see. And then I said, the more you buy, the better the price point. But I mean, those price points are pretty wholesale as they are, right as they are. And I've been having great luck with Jiffy Shirts. So
And they've got
huh? Oh yeah, they got hats. They got there's also auto hats. And then you have to. So now I know what the latest issues coming on with embroidery companies is. They want American made. Okay, so is it American standards that do just made in America? I mean, some people are really onto that. Of course, and they're very expensive. But there is a whole bunch of different wholesale houses. Those are just a couple ones that I like. Did you find the American made one? Is that what you're looking up? Is it United? No, that's not it. I can't see what you're seeing right there. But I mean, and then like the American made ones, if you happen to want to go into trying to do the firehouses or the police houses, yeah, here's Samar. Samar is great. Then that's a whole nother animal to deal with right there. No, but like I said, Samar is great. Samar is a quick turnaround. It's just, I mean, $200, you can do a quick $200 order.
And see, they have some marketing tools too. Like they can help with like a website.
They do. And they have the catalogs, and they'll print your, which is nice to have a catalog. They'll print your information on it, so then that way you can hand a catalog to any of your customers, and it makes you look more professional too. And then you're not having to wonder about it. And also with Sanmar, they do have web building. They have the shirts that you can input, because you're trying to do mock-ups on all your items. So they have all that information available for you too. So Samar is a really good starting place to go to, because I said they do have, for marketing stuff, they have a ton of it there.
And you can usually get some help when you call in too. Like you can call in, and there's usually a person that can help you out when you talk to them.
Oh yeah, they have live people on the desks, and well, yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody does. So, but I mean, yeah, Sanmar, like, they're great. They are awesome, and I highly recommend Sanmar, too. Especially, like I said, for the printed catalog. And I think for 10 they don't charge you. After that, they do charge you to do printouts, but it's a nice thing to give your customers.
So do you I mean, when you were initially, once you got everything in place, like you probably, did you learn the lessons about the estimations kind of the hard way, or did you kind of know, or did somebody kind of tell you when you got started?
Well, trying to figure out your pricing, right? Okay, so what I did is I went to a bunch of different embroiderers, and I asked them for, I was pretending like I was a customer, and I was trying to figure out what their price point was, because as you know, in the industry, they always say, it's $1 per thousand per thousand stitches, or is it $1 per 10,000 stitches? No, it's $1 for 1,000 stitches. So, I mean, and that is not a really good rule of thumb. It just, you have to kind of figure out, test your market, because every single market around the United States is completely different. So what I tell everybody is, make a few phone calls, see what your competition is selling, and create what your price is. And you have to include a lot of people who are starting out in the home industry. They just sit there and they think, okay, well, here I've got my item. I'm going to charge you $1,000 per 1,000 stitches. And then they forget that, okay, you have a machine that you got to pay for. You have a stabilizer that you have to pay for. What about your digitizing fee? I mean, you should also pay. That should be a different price point on that one.
So,
So there's a lot of variables on it.
so Carol's asking a question. She says people want to bring their own items though. So she's saying, and I've heard this a lot too, where people do bring you stuff they want you to embroider on without you embroidering the blanks. So like,
Yeah.
how did
Yeah.
you handle that, or how do you handle that?
Okay. So how I deal with that, right? And I like I said, I have a lot of people who have taken people's items and they've embroidered them and stuff like that. I mean, okay, so that's where you have to make sure you have all the proper documentation in line, because if you screw up on somebody's item, right, um, you can go out and replace it, but you're going to have to buy it for the price that they paid for it, right? And that doesn't work in the embroiderer's world.
Right.
I prefer not I prefer, saying, okay, what do you want? Let me get it for you. I would prefer paying the wholesale price, right, for my items. And then if there's a mistake, because you know what, chances are, maybe your machine screws up, I mean, there's so many different variables that could happen on when you take in people's items, right? If you don't have a way to replace that item, then you're going to have to pay for it, and it gets very, very expensive. I mean, like, I've had that happen to quite a few people where they've taken in like a team uniforms and they messed up on them, and then they had to replace them. And so there not only went the profit, but then they had to pay for the retail price. There is like I said, there's a form that says, okay, look, if I take your item in, and most of the time you're going to be safe, but like I do a lot of Carhartt jackets, and every once in a while, the Carhartt jacket, something will happen, right? And it's only happened to me maybe twice in the last 30 years. But the Carhartt jacket popped out, and I couldn't get it back in, and it was a 200,000 stitch jack design, and then to go and to replace that was just a nightmare. It's just because then you have to buy the jacket, you have to start all over again. Um, but I mean, so as an embroiderer with an embroidery business, I prefer to not take anybody's items in.
Just
I
to
know that some,
just to
huh?
just to not have the liability, basically.
Yeah, yeah, because the light, but okay, but it does happen, and when it does happen, again, you have to make sure your documentation's in place. Most of the time, you're going to be fine. Most of the time, you're going to be okay. But there's always that time when something's gonna happen, and then you're gonna have to do something with it, right?
Right.
And I mean, then sometimes you get these heirloom stuff coming in, right? And that's rather scary. You can do it, and I've done a ton of heirloom items, and it's worked out fine. But you always have to err on the side of caution and make sure that you are protected.
So so once you kind of got your legs underneath you as far as like just liability forms, estimation
Hmm.
processes, your pricing processes, because you're talking about pricing the blanks, pricing the digitizing, and pricing your stitches, that kind of thing, and then also kind of what the market can bear based on your local market. Obviously, it's going to be different from market to market.
Yeah.
Like, did a lot of your business come from just word of mouth? Like, did you kind of start turning the flywheel of like word of mouth business, or did it,
Well,
or did
well,
you
okay, so
you ever
yeah,
have?
yeah, Yeah, when I first started out, I did have a website, and I used my website all the time. And then, but I mean, that was pretty new back 30 years ago. And so, I mean, it's nice to definitely get a website in place, figure out what your market will bear. You can always drop your prices. It just is very difficult to raise your prices.
Right.
So you come into the market, you figure out what's good for you. I mean, if you turn your machine on, you want to make money. Okay. And if you're losing money, which a lot of home embroiderers, unfortunately, they they just turn on their machines and they think they're going to make a lot of money. And then what happens is they lose money because they haven't thought it all through, because there's so many more things to just the embroidered item.
Right.
And then, so you want to make sure that you're, like I said, that's why I called around, and I have everybody that I meet call around, call a couple of people who are doing embroideries, because let's face it, there's hundreds of them out there.
There is, yeah.
So there is I mean, yeah, everybody who buys an embroidery machine, be it even if they have a 4x4, hoop, right? They think they can go into business.
Calling around,
And
I think calling around to test the market's an awesome idea. Like just getting estimations, it really helps.
mhm.
It really helps kind of give the baseline for like what pricing should be. Um,
Oh, to see what your market will bear. I mean, like I said, you can always put your prices out. And I mean, that's the number one thing is you want to find. So if you're starting out new, okay, what I tell everybody is go find out what your niche market is, first of all. So be it like, say, if you're on a bowling team, or if you're, if restaurants are always looking for embroiderers, right? Um, so find out what your niche market is, and then go and set it up there. And then this is where you can start. And you slowly but surely you get your name out right. You get your name out. Now, I mean, as I've also found, the customers are, they switch a lot, so you think you have a customer today, that customer is going to go someplace else. If they find if they find a 5 cent better price someplace else, they're going to go. So, I mean, customer service is definitely important. I'm trying to read what it says. Customer service is extremely important, but I mean, you still got to start where you're comfortable, start your niche market, and then kind of go from there, because it does grow. As soon as people know that you're in business,
so I mean, a
they'll.
lot of like once you got going though, it's like, was it just a lot of word of mouth? Did you really even have to advertise?
I never had to advertise, and I was real fortunate about that, because I said
Uh-oh, it's like Cheryl dropped off the line.
I did. Oops.
Oh,
Okay.
you dropped off there. You said you were really fortunate and you never had to
Yeah.
advertise.
Yeah, I never had to advertise, because I said it was all word of mouth. And again, like, once you're doing the embroidery stuff, again, the customer service is I mean, you start creating your own reputation. And like I said, I had huge clients, and I had big orders. And it just evolved, which was great. And so, I mean, and I kept most of my customers, which was even better.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, so did you get a lot of those bigger clients just from knowing people? Like, just those bigger
Yeah.
organizations or clients just needed the work and they kind of got to know you, or
Well, yeah, well, like I mean, it's nice, because I said I did live at where I'm at. I live in Snohomish, Washington, so it was a small hometown. I mean, now it's huge, but from that point on, this person, and then I mean, so I've done Red Robin, I've done Starline, I've done Compass courses. I mean, I've done a lot of schools. Schools are always looking for embroidery.
yeah,
I mean, I've had a lot of corporations that I have actually put through, and I mean, I was running 6 machines here in my studio. And so, I mean, it is a good business. It's a great way to make money,
that's
you
very
know.
interesting. I mean, getting the
Uh,
schools on board, like getting organizations on board, because really at the end of the day, like a lot of those businesses are actually just people behind the businesses that you got to know, and it
that is correct. That's correct. And a lot of businesses I have found through the years is they want to work with the local people. They want it because, if you take care of the local people, then the local, it's a nice little symbiotic relationship where you take care of me, then you're going to come to my restaurant or you're going to use my school here. So a lot of companies want to deal direct, with them instead of, sending them over to like, the big embroidery houses, because then you lose a personalization. And so I mean, it just kind of evolves because I mean, first of all, embroidery still is art, and and every embroiderer can come out with the same different embroidery on their different items. So as long as the customer is happy with how you've stabilized the item, it doesn't pucker and all those nuances, and and they're happy with your work, then they'll keep on coming back. And so that's how
because the quality
yeah.
of the work really keeps the return orders coming.
Oh, it does, and also your delivery too. The delivery was really, really important, and because then I didn't have to do shipping. They could just come to my house and pick it up, which was kind of nice.
Carol has some good questions. She said, "How do you set yourself apart?" And then she asked, "Are you saying like corporations like Red Robin, for instance, like a restaurant? Would a
Uh-huh.
corporation like that? Did you work with a corporation that would use a local embroiderer?"
Yes, I did, and yes, I was there. Because a lot of those they're franchises, so they're individually owned. So depending on what restaurant, okay, so the Red Robin. So the Red Robin that I dealt with two different Red Robins here, and they were both individually owned. So they gave me their logo, I digitized it for them, and then I created a lot of their embroidery. Sometimes it's better to start and go into the smaller ones, like the Mexican restaurants. Actually, any restaurant you go to, they need embroidery
Yeah,
because that's and so if you just, if nothing else, everybody wants hats. Now, hats is probably like the number one thing you can make a ton of money on, because the chances of it having any failure is less. And the money you can make on hats is sweet, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time to embroider them.
and you
But
mark up.
but pretty much any restaurant that you look at, I mean, go to the mom and pop restaurants first. If you're just starting out, that's where go to the mom and pop, talk to them, and just see if they need embroidery, and you'd be surprised how well that starts developing your business.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, did you ever have to really? I mean, once you really got going and you had the word of mouth thing going, do you think did you ever try to acquire clients? Like, did you ever kind of seek out bigger clients, or did you need to?
I honestly, Chris, I mean, I was an interior designer before I started the embroidery business, and so I had a lot of customers that I had already painted their restaurant. It was nice. I mean, it was a nice, kind of came in the back door, but I had done a lot of murals for a lot of big customers, and so then they would come in, I would do their embroidery. So and then of course they had their friends, and their friends told their friends about me, and yeah, it worked out really nice. I was very happy with my business.
Did you ever
It's
go to like any sort of like networking things? Like, did you ever go to like a chamber of commerce thing or anything like that?
I did go to the Chamber of Commerce. Um, and then they had what did they have back in the day? They had those
Like BNI, like
huh? The
like
what?
like BNI network.
Yeah, yeah. Those. Okay. Yes, sometimes they work, sometimes they didn't. Again, it depends on the group that you were in. But I mean, it's trying to branch out, trying to get your name noted. Like I said, the places to go is the mom and pop restaurants, the like the golf clubs, the golf courses. That's a great place to go to. Any of the tennis, the pro shops. Um, let's see, what else can you go? Well, I still think the restaurants and the bowling alleys are the way to go. I mean, the bowling alleys are cool because with the bowling alley, you have all these new teams, okay, and they're always having new teams, and so you can create some really cool shirts. That's what I liked about the bowling teams is they would give you some really awesome stuff, so you're not doing the same logo 3,000 times, right?
How many teams do you think you maybe made custom monograms for just by being connected with a bowling alley?
Oh, that would be hard to say. So, so many, I mean, because I mean, the bowling teams, they don't stay that long together, No, I'm just kidding. Still, they do. But I mean, it's just there's it just is a way of just trying to find. I always tell everybody, find what your niche is, find what you love. So if you're into what do they have, those arts and crafts place now, right? Or the social now the senior homes, okay, the senior places, they like to have all their stuff embroidered on. Hospitals are a good place to go to. Well, actually, the convalescent places are great because now it's real popular to take those what are those walkers, and they're putting their names on their
Oh
walker
yeah,
stuff.
sure. You customize it.
Yeah. So I mean, think outside of the box is what is probably like the best thing to do, is try to speak outside of the box and try to go to different places that you wouldn't think of it is. But if you see somebody like construction areas, right? Pick up the, well, we don't have yellow pages anymore, but look over and just go find out what construction companies are and make phone calls. Or
Sure.
better yet, go and visit them. Okay, so like right over here by my house, we have, it's the Woodinville area. Now they have just, we're becoming the next Napa Valley, right? And so there is 700 to 1,000 different wineries over there.
Wow.
So, I mean, so just walk around, figure out what's going on. I mean, the wineries are huge, okay? The wineries are
Like
like,
when you'd go make like personal visits to clients or even like a client or something, did you ever bring like a gift or anything with you?
oh yeah, I mean, okay, so I mean, sometimes what I'll do is, like I said, when the winery started, what I did is, okay, I tasted some wine, it was great, I picked up their logos, I went back home, I digitized some stuff for them, and then I brought it back on a canvas bag. It was nice, and then they could see that I could embroider. I showed them that their logo was done, and I mean, there's stuff you can do on that way too. Or just, coming up with a really good advertisement and flyer and just walking around to different businesses and handing that out too works out well.
That's really good. Instead of just giving them like a business card, you actually have like a flyer. Like so, it's something
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. I mean, you need, and they have some really cool ways to do advertising now. And so if you look at what is that one area, shoot, I can't remember what it's called right now. Um, it's where everybody gets their cards from.
Sure, Vistaprint.
Yeah, Vistaprint. Thank you, Vistaprint. Yeah, Vistaprint. So I mean, you can come up with cool ideas on that way. There's so many different ways to set yourself apart. It's just as if I mean, basically, whoever has an embroidery machine, you're creative.
So
So
there's a site called Canva.com, and it's a free site that you can log into. And
uh-huh.
then you can build your own business cards. Like you can select business cards. You could select like U.S. letter document.
Oh,
Like you could actually go in and click like business card. This is something I use in my business pretty much on a day to day basis. But they
okay.
have all these free things. Like you could say, like they have thousands of designs. So if you
Okay.
type in just like embroidery or something, they even have these kind of fun templates that look like a note card. You can build your own basically, which is pretty fun.
But it's also okay. Let me just interject something. What's really cool to do is take a piece, something of your embroidery, take a picture of that, and use that as your backdrop on your card.
That
You
yeah,
know,
that would be really good.
I mean, because you want to set yourself apart and say, "Hey, I do embroidery, and this is what I do," and then put on the different types of the different types of methods you do to create logo wear, just to show them that, yeah, that's kind of a cool one. I like that. Yeah.
It's really easy to use.
Okay. That,
Just
yeah.
like once you do something like or once you create something, you can
Mm-hmm.
actually do like they have an option to print the business cards and they can ship them to you. Like you get like 150 for $22, free
Oh, that's great.
gloss finish. I
So
mean, because it's totally custom.
yeah, I actually like that one a lot better than Vistaprint.
Yeah,
But like I said, you can upload your own work. I'm just, and don't do a flimsy card. Do a serious harder card. Use a quality card, because then people will know you're in business. If you're just trying to do a fake little one, then they kind of, they lose you on it. Because you do want to set yourself apart. You do want to show people that, yeah, I know I've got this business. I'm excited about my business. I know what I'm doing.
So we got another question. Carol says, "What about casual friends wanting work? So like if you have acquaintances."
Yeah, don't you hate that? Okay. Well, I mean, okay, so we all know, right? We have an embroidery machine, we have our friends, and they come over. Oh, can you just do this one little simple job for me? And you go, oh yeah, this is great. And then you go, okay, now you got to pay me. And they go, what? Got to pay me, right? Um, it's real. It's a you're here to make money, and so as long as you establish that with your friends, that okay, I here's my item, you make this is how I make my money, and yeah, you have to pay me for my time, and my machine and electricity. It gets to be real sticky sometimes, but you want to help out, and I mean, yeah, it's like the relatives, right? They want, but they don't want to pay, which is really kind of sad. Um, but if you set yourself up as first and saying, hey, this is my business, this is what I charge, and if you're okay with that, then fine, let's go ahead and do it. And if you're not, then you got to say no, because otherwise everybody and their brother will say, oh, can't you just do this for me? I mean, everybody thinks with digitizing that, they bring you an item, you should be able to just whip it out. It's not like, okay, when you're doing a design, it takes you a long time to actually digitize that design, and people don't take that into consideration. So,
Right.
and so if you tell them it's my business, it's not like I go to your husband, the dentist, and I expect him to do my teeth for free, right? I mean, it's the same principle, but people just think because you work out of your house, and yes, I've had that happen to me many times, and I'm just like, it's how I eat, so I got to charge you,
I mean, you
right?
like decades. You got decades of experience with embroidery as a business, as like a small business owner. And I mean, could you confidently say, just with everything you've said now, that if somebody was going to like, if they were running their embroidery business, and you said you had like 6 machines running at one point. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you got like an operation like that where you're running 6 machines. You probably had employees, right? Could you confidently say like you really shouldn't, like you really don't have to go out and buy like paper ads, or you don't have to really go out and buy advertising for the most part?
For the most part, every time I paid for advertising, and I paid for it a lot of times, I never got anybody to come in for those advertising. I mean, it was like you said, the BNI meetings, that was a waste of time and money.
Yeah.
The advertising was a waste of time and money. I personally think, word of mouth, you start going around, you find, again, I keep on coming back to the home base, the niche market. You go to your niche market, people know who you are. You do really good work. You give them, you give them timely deliveries and everything else, and you start creating your own reputation. People in the area will find you. I can't tell you how much money I wasted, even on the website, because the website, people have to come and look for you. On my website, I mean, I had people from the East Coast coming to me, and it was like, wow. I mean, that wasn't my niche market. I mean, I want people in my area, because trying to deal with shipping and trying to deal with all that other nonsense, it gets to be a little bit too cumbersome sometimes.
Right.
So, I mean, yes, I had a very, very lucrative business, and I was very busy. My employees, I did have a couple employees, but also, because it was a small business, I found I did it myself better. Yeah, I have 3 boys, and so they were actually my employees most of the time. So if I needed somebody,
Right. That's awesome.
okay.
I mean, it just sounds like a lot of like all the marketing strategies. I mean, for the most part, it's just like a lot of shaking hands and like you said, like focusing really deep on your niche. And
Well, I mean, if you seriously, when you start looking around, right, and with everybody who's got their machines, start looking around, and you will see embroidery. Every business has embroidery. So, and I guarantee you, those people don't have an embroidery machine, right? And they're not cranking those embroidery wear out of the back of their their store. So that's where I would go on that one, or like your construction. I mean, the construction, anybody that has construction, plumbing, electrical, paint, any of the construction industry, they need to have shirts on and hats, because that shows the customer that they're working for somebody. So right there is a huge industry, right?
right.
You've got all that, and everybody loves hats. I mean, the hats are probably, like I said, you can make so much money on hats. It's ridiculous. You pay a hat, anywhere from $2 to $5, and you can turn around and start embroidering for $20 and on up, and maybe you've got a very small amount of time embroidering it. So
That's great.
I mean, that's where, if you want to make the money, I mean, that's just start looking around and look for your niche markets. And again, I think it is just by, like you say, shaking people's hands, talking to people, giving them, print out something with your prices on it, because that's the first thing everybody wants to know is, oh my goodness, how much is this going to cost me, right?
Right.
So you have your price list there. Like I said, on your price list, you could always go down. You can't go up.
Yeah.
It's like, the more you buy, the lesser your price can be, right?
Right.
So I mean, there's always variables, but again, check, make a few phone calls, see what the industry can bear on the price point, and then just your friends are the first people. The niche is where you need to look for first of
Right.
all.
Absolutely. So Carol asked another question. What's the best way to look for future trends? And I think maybe like, because when you're looking at like a really niche demographic, like you're dealing with these very specific clients, and like they're, you're bringing them orders already. Like, do you
Mm-hmm.
ever go to them and you say, what would work like really good for you? Or like, do you ever build out like better sales because of recommendations or anything like that? Or
Oh yeah, okay. So like what I would do on restaurants, okay, and I have a lot of restaurants that I was working with. So they would come in and they would get the hats, right? The hats, and then it was like, okay, so what about shirts, or what about aprons, or don't you want people to buy your stuff? I mean, so there's you can start developing and going from that aspect, and showing them different items to embroider stuff on. Also, like, what's really nice, okay, so here you're doing your embroidery. And I know this is kind of off topic, but what's super, super popular is the cutting machines, okay? So the vinyl is massively huge. So if you can combine the embroidered hat with a vinyl shirt or a silk screen, I mean, the silk screen gets to be kind of a little bit more, I mean, silk screen gets to be a little intense, but the vinyl work, most of your logos have 3 colors or less, okay? So you can easily do any shirts that have the vinyl work on it. So, vinyl, if you can package it with a vinyl t-shirt and a hat and go to these construction businesses, that's the way to go. Also, Carol, what's another nice thing for you to go look to is, I'm sure y'all have seen Pinterest, right? If you go into Pinterest and just put what's the trends now, okay? And you saw like Walmart was having their pleather bags with the monograms on it. Another big industry to check into is the wedding ones, where they're doing the wedding venues. Go to the bridal shops, because I tell you what, these brides need stuff monogrammed. Set up a little booth. I don't know if you guys have the wedding shows. We have a big one in Seattle. I had a friend who did set up a table for embroidery at one of those wedding shows, and she just got a ton of business on that one. But look at Pinterest. I mean, Pinterest is like, it just has got a plethora of information on there that is just huge. And see what the trends are, see what's being monogrammed, okay? Because monograms are big. If you guys are down by Georgia or stuff like that, you know how the monograms are. Everything's monogrammed in Georgia, down south.
You could probably actually look up like embroidery trends, and we can see some different trends, like some.
Monogramming, you know, is real popular. I mean, what 75% of all machines are bought to do monogramming on them. So that's another way. And I mean, you could probably,
This is
I don't
probably
know,
a really good
huh?
resource for people that are selling on Etsy.
Yeah.
Like an Etsy store, want to see some trends or maybe come up with some fun things to sell on Etsy. This,
Yeah, well, you know, like the problem with Etsy is a lot of people are doing the Etsy shops right now. And if you start looking at Etsy and you start putting on monograms, there's hundreds and hundreds of shops that are doing monograms now. So I seriously think if you're going to do this again, go to be on a go meet them, go shake some hands, you know. Or I mean, also too, like with Dime, with my company, we they want us to wear embroidery clothes, so we have to wear a lot of embroidered clothes. And I mean, people will see, they'll go, oh, that's kind of cool. I want that. Where did you get that, right? So there's all kinds of stuff to do on to start looking in on those areas. Let's see.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're kind of wrapping up the interview here. We're getting towards the end of it. Is there is there any other questions? Like, I'm just trying to solicit questions. I know we got some people that are still on, but what we'll do is we'll post this to the group so people can comment on it,
Okay.
and like leave some responses. And then Cheryl, if it's all right with you, I'll add you to the group so that you can be a member and kind of see what some people are talking about.
Sure, that's fine. And if anybody has any questions for me, feel free to contact me. And you know, I can give you more pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, that's great. No, I really appreciate
Pearls of wisdom. There you go. The
it.
pearls of the wisdom.
Yeah.
But I'm here to help make everybody a success. And like I get there's so much opportunity out there, and you can all make a ton of money.
Yeah, for sure. With a custom service based business like that, it's just pretty much endless. So that's great. Awesome. Well, thanks, Cheryl.
Hey, you're welcome.
All
That
right.
was fun.
I'll go ahead and
Okay.
repost this. Thanks for joining, everybody. We'll go ahead and it's just wrapping up right now. There it goes. Awesome. So we're not live anymore.
Okay. So was that good?
Yeah, I mean, it was like there was like 6 or 7 people on for the most part. There was just like 1 or 2 people that were really commenting a lot, though. Um,
Yeah, I was trying to read what they were saying. It was too small. I didn't I
oh
didn't have my big glasses on. Huh?
as I do it more, I'm going to try to figure out ways like because we just shared our screen on Facebook, and I don't know if there's a way to like have somebody jump on at the same time on the live feed, and we could do the same thing without using GoToMeeting. Um, but I don't know. I got to learn more about it. I got to figure it out.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to learn that. Eileen wants me doing some new stuff on the computer, and I'm like,